Today, I'm going to give you the keys. This has been quite a journey so far for me, just establishing the foundations of the work that will remain my life's work. I am enthralled by the gifts of this and the joy of slowly, consistently, persistently leading you all, some of you all, into the depths it's the most humble, inspiring blessing I've ever conceived of. The brewing sense that some of you are supporting by letting me know in the comments and personal messages that you're really doing this work. This brewing sense is just awesome. One of the greatest inspirations in my life for how to teach was a man named Ken Lo, who is a Shaolin monk. He was taught by Shaolin monks. He's a Chinese American who taught me in New York City. And perhaps the greatest gift he taught me was how to teach. He taught everybody together, all levels together. And the inspiration of this cauldron of possibility and potential and experience and inspiration and skill was just amazing. The complete disregard for stratification and leveling was just wonderful. And what it did in the end of the day was put it in our hands. What do we want to learn? He gave us a high degree of influence over what we learned and often asked us straight up, what are you most inspired to focus on? He didn't always do it that way, but the extent to which he did was very liberating for me. And it gave me an access to my own natural sense of the best way to teach and to learn. When you work with what someone is inspired to focus on themselves, you begin with rocket fuel. It's vastly different than mentally applying a framework and saying you must fit into this framework. And what I ended up experiencing was this difference between a lattice and a cage. Structure can be a cage. Structure can say, stay within this, stay. Focus only in these ways, think only in these ways, progress only in these ways, explore only in these ways. Now, purportedly, if there's a framework, it's saying this is a great way to explore. This is a wonderful range of limitations to stay within, and in many cases, that might be true. Whatever the discipline is, boundaries matter. They give you focus, and they may well be really good for some people. But I almost always experienced the structures I was confronted with as limitations that suffocated me. And as a result, I rebelled a lot against the structures I was given. And this Shaolin style was one of the first times that I didn't rebel. I liked the sense that I could explore some of the most difficult work a little, enough to give me exposure to it, and then back away and shore up my foundations, but with a deeper understanding of why I needed the foundations. And that is how I increasingly intend to teach you. See, the thing is, I've waited for years to share some of the best information about how this works because I've been building a foundation, but the foundation exists. So some people might step right in. This might be your first time here. This might be your first deep or intimate exposure to the work I'm doing. And if it is, you won't have been built up by all the other work that I've offered. And you might have to go back and learn some of that stuff. And I want to share and teach in a way that makes that fine. As a result, I get liberated because I can do my best to share from where I am. And of course, that's not going to make complete sense to some of you. And I hope that by recognizing me, honestly and vulnerably and enthusiastically, sort of in my more childlike joy of what I get to do, what I get to experience, how I learn myself, by showing you that, I hope you will be increasingly inspired to go back and understand many of the foundations that I've already shared in a way that will last. Luca, bless you. Thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate your presence. You're someone who's letting me know that you get it. It doesn't take much. When people are honest about how you've been inspired, I can tell. I can tell that you're getting the deep access to what this does. And I hope that the mental frameworks I'm going to share today will make that more accessible for many of you. Here's the journey I want to take you on. The key ring, which is what we explore every time we go through this cycle, is a ring of keys. And that itself is all it is. It's just a ring of keys. It's not the door. It's not an open door. It's not an explanation of what happens beyond the open door. It's just a ring of keys. So the work that happens first is about untangling the keys from each other and simply being able to recognize what it is to have a ring of keys that give you access to a great range of reality and consciousness. The goal is to be untangled, to have a range of keys that are clear, that you understand what each of them are enough so that you know when to open which door. Then you need to have some kind of clarity and confidence in how to go through, step into a new kind of consciousness, and be familiar enough to know when to enter the door and when to come back out and refocus in a way that will be best for you in your life. The reason people can't simply open any door whenever they want is because it becomes overwhelming. People get lost. If you just wander through the door and, you get exposed to extraordinary ranges of consciousness and potential within yourself that could simply be too overwhelming and quite detrimental for a good life. It's akin to starting to play really loud, vibrant music right in the middle of something that was really important to you. If you have a way of making your family life work and it's healthy and beautiful, if you suddenly start blaring, in whatever manner, blaring music that contradicts your family life, doesn't matter how beautiful it is, it's undermining the integrity of your existence. So you need to have the skills to navigate when and how to make your choices. And the beauty of this process is that it all kind of works together. When you decode your keys, you're essentially untangling. If you imagine a ring of 12 keys they're on sort of complex chains or something. So they're all tangled together in a manner you can't even make sense of what they are. They're just a mess. This is actually how most people exist in many ways. And it's such a mess that you just don't even address your own potential and power. You don't even look at it because it just doesn't even make sense. You don't have access to anything useful. So you stay where you are, which in general, you live in one key. You live with one key that opens one door, and that's about it. When you begin to get a sense of your potential beyond that, the first work you have to do is untangle this mess. And I promise you, most everyone has a mess on some level. And that it doesn't have to be a ton of work to untangle, but I'm turning off my digi. It doesn't have to be a ton of work to untangle, but it usually is. And that doesn't have to be bad. In fact, that can be really beautiful because the very act of untangling your keys on a practical level looks like addressing your life and doing a better job of unraveling which influences are negative and still linger in a way that undermines your ability to make positive, strong choices now. This is exciting. In fact, you don't even want to do all this work at once. You don't want to get this work over with because as you untangle the influences from your past that hold you back from experiencing a more powerful, vibrant life, you end up doing the work of learning to love better, of learning to love both yourself, the people around you, and life here. And you don't want to rush this. You want to take the long road. You want to enjoy and stop and smell the flowers. And my hope is that the way I'm introducing this will help you do that. Good morning, Brisbane. Some of my favorite people here together. I love it. So I've got a lot to share today. I don't know why this is making so much noise. I got to stare at it. I was trying to be all graceful and not look at it when I turned off the volume. I've got a bunch to share today. I want to talk to you about puzzles. I want to talk to you about my long-term plan. And I want to talk to you about decoding. I want the decoding to be the integrity that holds it together. But these other themes are going to weave in and out of what we talk about today. I was a smart little kid. You know, I learned a lot of things quickly. And I learned a lot of things quickly in a smart town. And I mean smart by classic definitions. It's an Ivy League town, Ithaca, New York. It's where Cornell is. And it's unique because most of the best universities in the world are in big cities. So when you put a really good university in a small town, it means that all the kids of the professors grow up together. So it's a profound influence. You know, whereas in a big city, you're likely to be exposed to a much wider range of people and ways of thinking. Here, we were all put together. And the gift of that is that it was an extraordinary cauldron. You know, I had a lot of really smart, intense influences. And the curse of that is there was an arrogance associated with it, where it's like we were taught to believe we were on the top of the world. And in many ways, we are. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that it works that way, but I've done my best to expose myself to many different kinds of strengths from other different kinds of people. I've lived in big cities. I've worked in impoverished neighborhoods, and worked in impoverished neighborhoods, befriended people in impoverished neighborhoods who they had skills that I never touched. They taught me strengths that I never even knew how to imagine. And so I began to learn this sense of multiple forms of intelligence. And that itself is a pretty crucial gift that everyone needs. I say that because basically I've done a lot of work in my life to kind of untangle the arrogance I was raised in. And I'm struggling to come to terms with my own gifts because I have it really wrapped up with a sense of like, if I own myself, I feel like I have to embody a strength that I really learned to reject, because I got sick of the inheritance that comes along with kind of being an Ivy League brat. So today, I think it's no accident that I didn't go out of my way to change my hat and my hoodie. I learned to wear hoodies all the time. I've slept on the streets more than I ever expected to. I've slept outside a lot. And quite frankly, I prefer it under multiple circumstances. I really broke down the inheritance in a way that I'm building it back up, and it's challenging. So that's my disclaimer, and I could babble about it too long, and I don't want to waste your time. What I do want to say is I'm good at puzzles. This is a puzzle. It's all these four little things interlocked, and it was the hardest puzzle in the series of puzzles that it's sold in. And I did it in 3 days. I've done the hardest puzzle in 3 different series in less than a week this week. And I'm like, I haven't tackled puzzles like this in ages. And I just picked them up, and I'm like, I almost want to, it's bizarre. It's like a strange collection of emotions, but I'm really good at it. And it's helping me kind of like register my place, because I'm feeling a calling that's a little daunting, and I constantly process about it in a way it's self-indulgent and annoying the shit out of me. So I'm only burdening you with it because I want you to be present with me as I am, because I think that's the best way I can actually teach you. And I'll do my best to get over my own head trips in every way that I think they get in the way of teaching you. So here's the deal. I'm good at puzzles. And I'm teaching you how to decode the coolest puzzle on the planet. And basically, that's what happened to me. I identified the coolest puzzle on the planet, and I just became obsessed with it. And here's the puzzle. The puzzle is energy centers interlocked with music. When you begin to put these two themes together, you begin to sense the potential to understand how the gears of humanity work on an individual level and on a mass cultural level. And the fascination of this is beyond belief. It far transcends, you've heard there are many ways up the mountain. This is kind of the puzzle that explains that much more in depth. What you start to recognize is that every culture in the world has been interlocked. We've been using vibrations that interlock. Now, this puzzle that I finally figured out yesterday evening, and it really made me happy, was all four of these interlocked. And you have to move them around and untangle them. And it was difficult. And what I did was I identified which order you had to work on them in. And as a result of identifying that, I broke it down and was able to pull the first one apart, which made the others relatively obvious. Well, culture works in the same way. Cultures work in the same way. The end result, and I'm telling you the answer, I've already been telling you the answer week after week. Now I want to tell you the results of the answer. The answer is the key ring. The answer is what's called the circle of fifths in music. The answer is that cultures all across the world fit into this cycle of 12. You don't necessarily have to know how yet. I only know part of how. I'm really excited to learn more about it. But you don't even have to. All you need to know is that if you go around in this cycle, you're putting all these energies in their place. And once you put them in their place, a lot calms down. First of all, you begin to know how to interact with many different cultures all over the world with respect and care. And I don't think it's an accident that there are people from all over the world who come to this channel. More than half the people who visit my channel are from global. And I didn't do that at first. That just happened. I just started talking. But there's something about the appeal of the core content that I'm sharing that vibes with people from all over the world. And on a base level, it comes from a space where most cultures intrinsically disrespect someone else because some of their culture, whether they intend to or not, whether they're a good person or not, most cultures are designed to push against at least one other culture. And it's harmonic, it's musical. It happens because cultures interfere with each other. And if you don't learn how to take turns, you're going to keep fighting for dominance with someone else. Whether that's violent or hateful or racist or not is another issue, but you still want them to be quiet because they interfere with what you love and what you know to be true. But if you put energy in this cycle, you just change when it's time to change. And when you know how to do that, you're liberated from certain kinds of resistances to the way the world works. And the only way that works is this key ring. Now, you can apply the key ring in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be my version. People do it in other ways, even without intentionally doing it. But when you understand it, it does help. Here's how this works on a personal level. You have 12 chakras. If you don't identify that you have 12 chakras, 5 of them usually are latent. If they're latent, it means you're not playing them. And if you're not playing them, it means you do get to focus on the others well. You are in the key of the chakras that you focus on. If you do that, it sounds good. Now, this is hopefully review for many of you, but I'm going to get to the new stuff. Here's what happens when you take it a little deeper. Last week, we talked about knowing the chakra before and after any chakra you focus on. So if you do the key ring, choose the chin, the chakra after the chin, the chakra before the chin. The chakra before the chin is the root, after is the navel. When you know that quick, then you begin to recognize if you have a weird thing going on in your chin, you start asking about those other 2 chakras. I am telling you that does an enormous amount to help you understand yourself right there. And it's much deeper than just knowing chakras one at a time. In fact, I almost encourage you to begin this way because it will give you perspective on your issues that immediately helps you unravel confusion. Today, we're going to do a deeper version. First, I'm going to do myself, and then I'm going to ask for a volunteer. You could make something up, or you could tell me a real challenge. I'm telling you this because I want to share what I just learned about myself. It put a lot of different forces in their place. I am having trouble trusting. I've known that. Part of not sharing the information that I'm sharing today is that I've been having trouble trusting, putting it out there. So I did a meditation yesterday, and this is what happened. Now, there's one simple principle I'm using, and I encourage you to consider trying this. Even if it ends up feeling sloppy or ineffective at first, you'll get better at it. Here's what you do. You take an issue, you associate it with a chakra. Then you say, is this something I want to empower? Is this something like a superpower for me that I want to enhance? Or is this something that's dysfunctional for me that I want to turn down? Just that. Very simple. So I'm saying, Luke, what's up with Luca and Luke showing up at the same time? Oh, MP, been a bit. Thanks for being here. The before and after is still a focus challenge. Please elaborate on that, because I'm not sure I understand. Oh, no, everybody, okay. You identify a chakra. You say, is this a dysfunction or a superpower? A superpower, you want to enhance it. You go clockwise. You go forward with the circle of fifths, the key ring. If it's a dysfunction, you go backwards. And here's how you progress. You keep going backwards and you ask yourself about your issue in relation to the next chakra. So there's a little bit of skill here, but I really want you to begin practicing it, because you're going to love it like the most beautiful puzzle in the world, because that's what it is. And it's you in relation to the most beautiful puzzle in the whole world. I say, this is my challenge. I'm not trusting enough stepping forward into the future. I need to understand why more, and I need to help myself unravel the reasons in a way that helps me be productive and take action. So I'm meditating on my chin. And then I'm going in relation to my root. And I'm saying, okay, immediately I come up against this challenge. The root is about how my needs are met and how I fit into society and the community that I'm a part of. And so immediately I say, well, one of my biggest problems is I feel like I don't have clarity on who I am in the world. That's why I keep babbling about my self-image, and I put myself down. I call it babbling. That's why I keep sharing my challenge to understand myself in the world, because I don't feel like I fit in a consistent way. People receive me in a variety of ways, and that's hard for me. It's painful for me. I don't know how to come to terms with it. So I don't know how to come to terms with it is kind of a feeling that's inconclusive. So I'm just going to move on to the next chakra. The next chakra is the lungs. Now I move to the lungs, and lungs is all about planning and what I love. So when I move to this, I say, I really love this work. I really love sharing the variety of amazing breakthroughs that come, the fascination I have with the puzzle nature of the macro and the micro all in the same themes, that this is the unity of those forces in a way that it makes me so enthusiastic that I haven't been able to give up on doing this. And I get to sense that, for years and years and years, I had all these plans that didn't quite come through, but the channel keeps working. The classes keep working. Like, incidentally, I'm really excited about my yoga class, and I want to share a breakthrough about that later. But I'm on it. I'm on it. I can keep doing what I'm doing. And even though I don't have a ton of clarity on many of the issues involved, I have a lot of space to put my enthusiasm to work. Now, this energy that I'm feeling is stronger than my lack of trust. This energy that I'm feeling is more vibrant, and this is a positive energy. This is a superpower of the lungs. This is the lungs help you plan from a space of love, of like, what do you love the most? How can you put that into action? How can you plot it? And plotting in two ways. Plotting in terms of how do you choose what to plant where in your garden, like a garden plot, and plot it as like, how do you plot a novel? How do you sketch out the framework in which you're going to tell a story? That's what the lungs do. And when I embrace that, I start feeling a sense of love that outweighs my lack of trust. I started with a lack of trust, and I just found an energy that it outweighs that lack of trust. So I change. I'm no longer working on a dysfunctional energy. Now I'm working on a superpower. And so I'm going to change directions. I'm going to take this feeling and I'm going to bring it back into the root. Well, I go back into the root and I'm immediately, and you go with your first thoughts if you can. And the first thing I get is like, I've been walking into this puzzle store. For those of you who weren't there here at the beginning, I've been solving puzzles lately like crazy. And I just saw this one last night. All these 4 rings were interlocked. And I've been walking into this puzzle store and I'm just saying, give me your hardest puzzles. And I'm solving them fast. And it's doing something. It's like, it's beyond ego. And then like, it's brought me to tears. I'm like, oh, I'm relevant. Like, I know how to solve these puzzles that other people are fascinated by. Like, I'm like clicking into the world in a way I love the puzzles and I love feeling a place in it. So I'm walking into the store and just give me another one. And it's fun. It's fun to make an impact like that. And this one was, it was one of the hardest ones they had. And I just got it last Thursday. And I'm going to have to go get another one today. So that theme is exciting. This is me in the world. This is part of how I fit into the world, is to register that I'm someone who solves puzzles on this level. And it's probably not that out of the range of people's belief when I tell you I've solved this major world puzzle, this puzzle about how spiritual energy works. I'm trying to communicate that I've solved this puzzle, and I've known that I've solved this puzzle for 14 years. But every time I've tried to communicate it, I sound like such an asshole, like an arrogant person, that I don't say enthusiastically the truth, which is, when I solved this puzzle, I knew what was happening. I recognized it. I felt it like an overwhelming, earth-shattering revelation, and it remains that awesome and daunting this many years later. So I've got to let this settle in my root. This is me. I'm not trying to be egoic about it. I'm trying to communicate a truth, that there is a puzzle. First, you have to know it exists. Then you have to trust me that I'm communicating clearly how to work with it. And that this is actually, a resolution on many levels. As it so happens, understanding this puzzle and the solutions I'm sharing also introduces you to many more puzzles beyond the ones that I'm decoding with you. And I'm hoping to get you so enthusiastic and knowledgeable that I can expose you to the puzzles that are at the edge of my understanding, and you can participate with me in working on them for the rest of our lives, because it's that beautiful and that amazing. Okay, see, look at this. The energy is still this strong. It's the same vibrancy. So I went from the chin, I went to the root, I'm still down, I went to the lungs, I turned because I got access to a vibrancy of energy through the lungs. Then now I'm going to carry it in a positive direction. I want to amplify this energy. So I move to the root, and it continues to amplify as long as I accept the truth, which is being shown to me. So I'm accepting myself in relationship to the world. I'm communicating it honestly, even though I'm afraid of being criticized. My love and excitement is stronger. So let's see where this goes next. So you go from the lungs down. Now we're going to the trust. Now we're going back to the chin. I've had a lack of trust in my chin. The chin is all about registering one major thing. The chin is all about taking an edge. You're at an edge, and it's time for you to move forward into a transformation. And there are certain things you can't keep arguing for proof. You can't keep debating about what's going to happen and try. I call it the no prenup chakra. You can't keep demanding a prenup with reality, where you're asking for proof on what life will give you, demanding certain standards or conditions. What you need to do is you need to register trust. You need to put it here. You need to hold it here, and you need to keep it more vibrant than your doubt. And when push comes to shove, you need to take actions based in that trust, even if you don't have the confirmation or affirmation that you want. Now, I started by addressing my lack of trust to progress. Now I want to reprogram that. I want to get this trust and excitement in. And what I go to is, it's like, here's the thing. I'm so fucking terrified that I'm teaching you things and you're going to unravel parts of yourself and you're going to fall apart. I'm so afraid that I'm giving people keys that are going to traumatize you, and I can't carry you. No one can. That's the point. This is bringing you to an edge beyond a space where a kind of parental teacher can keep you safe. And I know this. Every bit of my spiritual guidance has taught me to communicate honestly that you can't turn to me as a parental kind of teacher who can make it all okay. Because when you start to unlock these energies, there's no going back that I know of. And this is where my fear is. And that's right here. So I'm bringing this trust and joy and excitement right to here. And I need to be able to progress anyway. And it's an action. Trust is an action. Trust is stepping forward regardless of your fears. And that's why I teach in the way I do. I had a client, an ongoing client, who watches this stuff. Last week, 2 clients basically communicated the same thing, that I seem really out there, but they love it. They love that I function this way, that I teach with so much vulnerability, with, ideally my heart almost on my sleeve. And I'm telling you, I told each of them that the reason I do it this way is because this is exactly how I was taught to teach, that I am giving you the tools to unravel a great deal of consciousness stability. And when you unravel it, you liberate it within yourself. But one of the most direct consequences of that is that you can't go back to a space where a teacher makes everything okay, kind of like hiding under my umbrella or something. I can give you some degree of shelter here with the channel, but particularly if you live on another continent, there's no prayer I can make it all okay. And frankly, you might be evoking so much energy that you put yourself in a position where you are the only being in existence who can make it okay. You have to own it. You have to be willing to own it. And I can't say that enough, along with my assertion that I'm going to continue to do the absolute best I can to teach you how I do it. That's the best I can do, because you might uncover challenges that I have not faced. You're unlocking the secrets to your consciousness beyond this lifetime. Invariably, you start to gain access to yourself in other lifetimes. That can sound so exciting to some people. I have met so many people on my journeys who are thrilled by the idea of uncovering other lifetimes. Here's the thing. There are reasons we identify with one lifetime. There are strong, clear, important reasons we do that. Once you start recognizing yourself as someone who's lived many lifetimes, there are real challenges to remaining sane and stable. You essentially have to keep going. You don't get to rest in the middle of the water. You're crossing a passage where there are jellyfish and sharks, and you have to keep going. And the best I can do is to continue to be honest about how I do it, how I've done it, in the past, how I confronted the most extreme challenges I faced, and rest in the trust that when I've been scared, I've learned to talk to angels every fucking day. And I ask them what to do and they say this, and I haven't done it. I've been too scared to take it to this level. They say, do this when you're ready. They always say when you're ready, pretty gracious about it. And now it's time. This is it. I'm reprogramming my chin. And I say, I'm going to go forward with this energy. If I was too scared, I'd have to go back. I'm going to go forward with this energy. And I'm going to move to my navel. And my navel says, this is where my navel says, this is what I need to do. Now, I've known this, but it just seems a little daunting. So my navel says I need to essentially establish a network of teachers. I need to teach you how to teach, because there are certain thresholds you won't be able to cross unless you're also teaching people how to come a little further themselves. You will magnetize people, if you probably already have on some level, you will magnetize people who actively and humbly want to learn from you. Now, I'm not talking about your friends who you think you can diagnose clearly but resist you. Not them. Other people. People who actively and clearly say, help me. And you say, yes, I will help you. So here's the idea that I have. I will continue to do this for years. On this channel, probably teaching 2 classes a week and posting other stuff. This is the stability I can offer you. I will answer all the questions that come to me as clearly and as honestly as I can when I'm in a position to do so. I make no promises about how quickly, but I will do my best to answer them. And I'll do my best to keep a lot of it public. I will also, fairly shortly, this summer or fall, start to do something that's tighter and more private. Give people a join option, so you can pay a little bit of money to be part of something that's with a closed door, and we have more honest, deep conversations about how to teach, how to take care of other people. And within that closed circle, I nurture you as people who can take care of other people. Now, here's the plan, and it's been clear for a long time. I see a very clear vision where I continue to teach this way, and I encourage everyone who feels ready. I'm not with you. There are people from watching this from just, so many different countries. And I can't stop you from teaching other people this stuff, but I can say, here's what I support actively. I support you memorizing the standing flower and teaching it. I also support you memorizing a basic healing session, basic, simple healing session, and offering it to people. And the standards that I use are whatever a decent, simple lunch costs is how much you should charge for a class. Wherever you are, whatever a decent, simple lunch costs is how much you should charge for a class. And you should be willing to do a class for one person. If you do a class for one person and they pay for your lunch, that's a gift. It's worth doing. So memorize the standing flower and teach it to anyone. Practice with people first without charging, but once you're the only one that can determine when you're ready. But when you feel like you can do it from memory in a way that's valuable to them, teach it to them and ask them for the cost of a lunch. And if you get 5 people to do it, great. You're making a little bit of money. And I'm excited to be a part of empowering you in this life because I trust this work that much. It was taught to me. I value it. If you teach it pretty much in the way I'm teaching it to you, it's going to work well. And if you come up with ideas about how to do it better, I'm excited and thrilled. And I want to generate community that does that. For the cost of a good dinner, like an expensive dinner for one meal for you, I encourage you to offer a healing session. So around me, that looks like $5 for a class and $20 for a meal. I don't know what that looks like in your community, but I think this is a really great standard. A healing session for one person for 45 minutes, an hour, can be radically influential, and it's absolutely worthwhile to offer for that much money. If you stick with this, I'm going to keep teaching people how to do it and setting the standard for what it takes for you to be ready. Obviously, I can't determine whether you wait until you meet those standards or not, but I can keep articulating them. This is how I imagine it working. And it's been consistent. I've just been quiet. I haven't been encouraging people, and now I am. And I go from there into the heart. So I just moved from the navel when I accepted that my job is to teach people how to do all these things and create a network of people who I'm calling to be powerful and inspiring healers and teachers of in your own right, in your community, wherever you are. Then that starts going into the vision I have of how that works. So I move from the navel to the third eye. When I set clearly with the same vibrancy of energy that I began way back at the lungs with, I set an imagination, a clear sense of what this looks like, to have a lot of people learning how to do this and sharing from all over the world and exploring, what goes well, what goes poorly, and then communicating that to other people. And then you bring it to the heart. Here's what happens in the heart. Wow. Thank you, Prisoners. So here's a threshold at the heart that I have to embrace. And I haven't been ready to embrace this. There's yet another theme that I know we started this. This is how I heal and decode myself. We started this with my lack of trust to step forward in my chin. It's been certain barriers that I've been afraid to cross. Now I'm going to my heart and I'm seeing the lack of trust in my heart. And here's where it is. It might surprise you. Years ago, one of my best friends in the world, her mother passed away. And her mother was rather famous. She was a rather famous Cornell professor in gender studies. And she did some radical work that's inspired a ton of people. And when she passed away, I spent 4 hours out on the porch talking to her. She was right there, and she came right to me, and she wanted to explain some things. Now, I have shared this before, but I haven't gone past it, so I'm going to share it again. It's unlikely you've heard it because I think I buried it somewhere. She said that her life's work was about helping people recognize that in spirit, we are neither male or female. That when we incarnate, we are entering a system that is not absolute. It's not objective. It's not the way things are. It's very susceptible to change and influence. And as a result, her life's work was to intellectually deconstruct the idea of what male and female are. Now, she wasn't in a position to, it was too far out of bounds to consider that a lot of people were going to start to embrace the true depths, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. You've lived multiple lives. You come to the earth from somewhere else and incarnate. She wasn't going to get a lot of people at Cornell to go with that. So she was focused on breaking down people's strictly focused on gender. And when you embrace this within yourself, that you are not the being who is the gender of your body. You are someone who is incarnated into this body and life with a predisposition to be more masculine or feminine in this or that way. But you need to relate to the deeper being who transcends and chose this for a while. When you gain access to that within yourself, you start to gain access to the truth. You shift into a state where you can remember. It's such a simple little thing, but you can't really remember other lifetimes if you don't do this work. Because the prerequisite is that you recognize that you're not actually masculine or feminine. Now, I still remember my masculine lifetimes more easily than my feminine lifetimes. I'm biased in that way. It's just the way it is. So my consciousness is more capable of putting myself into that relation with my past in that way. It's okay. You know, it's a natural predisposition, but I couldn't have even gotten there to begin with if I didn't dig into myself deep enough to say, yeah, I'm male in this lifetime, but this isn't the core of my identity. It's the center of my identity for now. And I'm at peace with that. I like it in plenty of ways, but I have to be able to go deeper because the heart, we're working on the heart here. This is why I'm telling this story. The heart wants unconditional love, and unconditional love, think about this, unconditional love. What is it? Unconditional. What does that mean? Unconditional means I'm not saying I will love you if. I will love you under these circumstances. Unconditional love says I'm going to love you in the depths. I'm going to love you in a flow that keeps flowing. I promise you, you can't do that if you identify only as one gender. Now I have not wanted to take this challenge on. I haven't wanted to talk about it because we're starting to get into territory where people get very upset. I have core beliefs about the way the world works and why transgender issues are coming to the surface. That for people who live their life, you know, they identify as a woman but they're in a masculine body, or they identify as a man and they're in a feminine gendered body. They're living these challenges with an extraordinary range of pain every day. I don't want to weigh in with an opinion that hurts them or makes their life more difficult. Nonetheless, I have consistent access to the insight from spiritual guides who are vibrant and clear in my consciousness. That the reason these issues are coming to the surface is because it's time for more and more people to access this within yourself. And it's not just because we're deconstructing the way the world used to be. It's because you have to begin to identify with a sense that you're a spiritual being that transcends gender. Now, I'll tell you the end at the beginning. The end of the day is it's perfectly fine to go back into your body and, you know, center in a polarization that makes you more male or female. It's great. It's beautiful. You just have to do that from a space where you recognize that there's a deep level of choice in this. And a lot of people don't want to own that choice because it makes everything less stable or seemingly less stable. Now, it doesn't really make things less stable because the currents of reality are shifting. So you can't avoid the fact that these waves are hitting you and forcing you to ask these questions in some form. And if they haven't, they will soon. But the framework that says this is fixed, there's nothing I can do about it, is a resting place for a lot of people, including people who say, you know, there's nothing I can do about the fact that I feel drawn to identify as a woman, even though I'm in a male body. For someone who is confronted with those feelings day after day after day, you don't want to be told that there's any measure of choice in it because they're already suffering brutally without much choice. But you get into the depths, and the only resting place I've ever found is to say the reason this is happening is because people are being called beyond the boundaries of everything you've known to relate to this part of your spirit before you were born and before you were born into a gendered body. There's no other resting place that I have seen. I don't mean to deconstruct anyone who's found a way to be at peace with your life. I certainly don't want to make anyone's life more complicated or difficult, but the only resting place that I see is to go all the way to the point where you recognize yourself as the being that chose to live. And when you made that choice, the only way you can gain access to the part of you that made that choice is to relate to the part of you that is not gendered. And it's daunting. It dissolves your understanding of reality. I promise you, it might be subtle, it might be graceful for you. I pray that it is, but it will dissolve your relationship to the rest of reality. It has to. There's no other choice. Oh, bless you. See, this is my hope, and this is the love. We've made it into the heart for the lungs, right? This is my hope, and this is the love. And I want to tell you, this is how to do this, all right? You start with a problem. wait a second. I don't want to skip past this. What I want is to create space to help people say, I've always known this. This has been true to me. I want to create more, community around people sharing truths you've always known, feelings, intimacies, vulnerabilities you've always known, and to be a place where we shore that up in each other and encourage healing, empowerment much, much deeper than anything that could happen without a sense of intimate safety. And the only place that I know that is safe is to go all the way into the depths where you remember, put back together, recreate the body of the truth, which is that you transcend your gender, your race, your culture, all of it. You are the spirit that chose to be born into these circumstances. Once we relate with each other from that space, we could create a whole new stability and grace, a whole new style of intimacy that's waiting for us. It already exists, but we get to bring it to life into the world. And it's certainly already happening. And I want to do our part to play the most beautiful role we can in that. Here's the puzzle nature of it. You take a problem, any problem, you associate it with a chakra. You go backwards in the key ring. And you interpret your problem in relation to the theme of the chakra. So I started with my lack of trust to share fully all the things that I know. I articulated that lack of trust, and then I went to the root. I interpret my challenge through the root. I say, I just don't feel at peace. I don't feel like I have my place in the community. That was iffy, wishy-washy, still negative. So once I felt stuck, I go for the root to the lungs. I kept going backwards in the key ring to the lungs. When I hit the lungs, I felt the plan. I felt the plan that I know I'm following. I felt the joy that I'm getting in the steps that I'm already taking. And I feel enough of the plan to trust it. Oh, boom. This energy is stronger than my initial negative energy. That's the sign. That's the signal to change direction. And now we're recentering on the key of the lungs. The new theme, the new bass note is the lungs. I'm shifting on purpose. And I'm saying the superpower I want to enhance is my plans for how to progress with this work. And that is stronger than my lack of trust. And then I go from the lungs back to the root. And when I went back to the root with this joy in mind, I remember this teacher, this Kung Fu teacher who taught in this style where he's teaching everybody at once, advanced and beginners. Despite the fact that he was exposing advanced students to very daunting skills, it was worth it. And he had mechanisms to teach in a way that he trusted. And I'm like, well, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. Then I go from that joy. I'm in the joy. I sense the pattern. So I go from that joy back to the chin. And I say, can I trust this enough? And I access my fear. I access my fear that I'm giving you tools and information that I could contribute to you unraveling yourself and losing a coherence that makes life good for you. And you're out there somewhere in the world. I won't know to help you, or I'll be busy because I'm about to have a baby being born, or I will overlook the signs that say you really need my support, or I'll be pissy because I'm feeling overburdened, something, and I'll push you away, and your life will be worse. I will have given you the tools to unravel your truth, your life, your coherence, your consciousness, but I won't be there. I can't be there in a way that helps you put it back together. There's my fear. And then I say, wait, I don't want to turn around. And I recall, I gain access to the trust that I've had in praying and meditating and asking these questions of my spiritual guidance that say, be honest, expose yourself openly and vulnerably, share how this works for me. That's the response. Don't create a false vision that I'm a parent who can take care of everyone. Be present and clear about how I see it. And that's the best gift I can give everyone else, to empower you to own yourself, not to look for someone to save you, but to learn from me and from other people in a way that empowers you. And this energy, I feel it. It's sober, but it's strong. And I say, I'm going to keep going. And that's what you want to do with the chin. I'm going to keep going. And I go into the navel. And I say, okay, here's who who I am. I'm someone who's going to spread my knowledge to others. I'm going to share honestly and openly of the depths of my true power. And I'm going to challenge you to do it also. I'm going to challenge you to teach other people. Start with the basics. Start with the basics of what I'm giving you. If you know other things to teach, great. I'm inspiring you to do that. But I'm saying I empower you to teach the standing flower. Learn it, practice it over and over again. Read in the recorded video, there's a document underneath it that is linked. Go to the document, print it out. Pretty much memorize that guidance. Once you're decent enough at it that you can remember it without, even do it with the pamphlet. If you're doing it with the paper, don't charge people. Once you can do it without the paper, consider charging people the cost of a lunch, a good, healthy lunch, not extravagant. I want to do that. I want to say that. I want to challenge you to do it. Then I take that to my third eye and I see a vision. I see a vision of networking people, calling people to teach what I'm sharing. I see a whole sense of myself in the world helping to gather and network and keep this thriving. And when I start to feel it working, I know the love that comes along with it. And when I go into my heart, I feel the love, and then I feel the fear again. I feel the fear clenching because I feel it taking me beyond my identity as Daniel in this life. I feel it taking me away from an ability to kind of hide and feel safe as I am listening to Pink Floyd, wearing my hoodie, remembering myself as a puzzle-loving kid. Takes me past the boundaries of everything I've known. And that's okay. And when you get the energy from one chakra all the way through the cycle to the chakra below it, that is where you stop. There are lots of reasons this is true, but I'll explain them to you, but don't get caught up in it if it doesn't make sense. When you go halfway, it's half the cycle. It's half the key ring cycle. If you draw the cycle in a circle, heart, crown, do it. Heart at 12, crown at 1, derive it and get comfortable deriving it. Any chakra you start with, you go halfway around, you get to the chakra below it. And when you get to the chakra below it, the energy, that's where to stop, because energy likes to go one step up. When you start with one chakra, go through the key ring and get to the one below it, the energy wants to go back into the beginning. This is a key. This is a major key. Trust that. This is a phenomenal way to keep energy flowing strong. Don't keep going to the next chakra. It's awesome. You do the whole cycle, you're actually not as strong. You do half the cycle like this, purposefully with intention, you start to turn on extraordinary depths of energy. Less is more. And this is, when I say it now, I'm sure that it's not necessarily hitting you like an earth-shattering revelation yet, but it might at any given moment over the next several weeks if you keep studying this. Because if you take your own issues and put it through this process, you're going to uncover so much magic. See, here's the thing, Bruce. I need to hear that. I need to hear don't worry. But the standard archetypes that I was taught in say, get really confident in your work as a teacher. I grew up wandering to Cornell every day because my parents were grad students. Okay, so I hung out with them in their offices. I was like a Cornell groupie. My mom worked in the museum. She put on exhibitions, and I would hang out in the museum all day with my sister and wander around. We were little mascots. I loved it. We hung out. My father was also going to Cornell, labor relations school, and we would hang out in his office, and all of his colleagues knew us. This is how I grew up. These are the influence I was surrounded by, and the archetypes are strong. The archetypes say a couple things, but most importantly, they say, get really good at what you do and ride it. And ride it, and who cares? Like, there are so many eccentric, intense people who are professors at Ivy League schools, and they get away with a lot, in my opinion. Like you can bury your insecurities because you're uplifted as so strong and extreme in these other ways. Well, I have to do a lot of work to deconstruct that by saying I am just going to keep relentlessly sharing my worries, and I'm going to accept your support. I'm going to put them out on the table in front of everyone, fully aware that some people are going to go, I don't like this guy. He's not stable enough for me. Like I need someone, more whoosh, whoosh, more like alpha male. You're going to follow me and we're going to win together. Some such shit. There's somebody out there. I'm not going to name them when I'm negative on them, but there's somebody out there who like they advertise their thing and they're like, join the elite levels of light workers. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, just from the tone alone, I'm like, this is just absurd. Like, the elite levels of light workers. Do you know how to run a sun? Like, do you know how to dance in the center of a star? Like, shut up. like, there's so much to reality that you obviously haven't seen yet. Like, just humble yourself for your own sake, because you're gonna look like you're gonna wake up like that. That dream where you wake up naked at school and you're all embarrassed or awkward. A lot of people have that dream. That's how you're gonna wake up if you keep saying shit like that, because it looks foolish to compare yourself to anything beyond our small little circumstances on the earth, because there's a lot going on. And don't claim you're the most elite light worker on the planet if you haven't even begun to recognize what a tree fairy is, or what alien spirit guides are doing on earth. I promise you, it looks silly. And as a result, you get to be at peace. And that's the message I'm getting, is that if I just keep playing this way, keep sharing exactly how I feel it and see it, I get to be at peace because I'm not trying to hide. And that's a beautiful thing. All right, let's see how we're doing. This is an interesting, curious day. I look perfect. I love it. So what I want to do with the next phase of this, I'm going to do I'll scan myself for any clarifications. If you have any questions based on all the stuff I've been saying, please share them now. But then I want to move on to an example, and I'll do a quick version of an example. Okay. I am about to have a baby. I'm not about to have a baby. My wife is about to have a baby. It's awesome. I can't even tell you how excited I am. We're gonna have a baby girl any time now. It's like 2 weeks away by due date, but we were 10 days early last time. So any given moment, this could happen. I am not going to be able to produce as much, but I am starting to make enough money. I've started to make enough money from the channel that I'm going to pay for some help. Now, Miguel is awesome, and I want you to know him and know what he's doing, because he's doing the graphics for these meditations. That it's going to turn into more than that, and I'm going to keep paying him from what I'm making, and I'm going to do my best to keep producing videos during this time with an infant. Forgive me, but I'm not going to be quite as consistent, but I am committed to doing some yoga class on Monday, some spiritual chakra class on Tuesday, and hopefully some videos on top of that keep this going, keep it groovy. The yoga class, look, if you're not a yoga teacher, you might not get this, but I want to share the joy with you. In January, I started teaching a weekly live class. I taught it almost every week. It was iffy, in my opinion. It was sloppy. I got a lot of my best stuff out there, but first of all, I'm not in nearly as good shape as I want to be. Ever since being a dad, I've lost a little bit of an edge. And it was haphazard. Like I talked a lot at the beginning in a way that was not very meditative. And I wasn't able to accurately predict what I was going to do. And that stressed me out. So it was hard to offer a coherent class, because I was trying to do one thing and often ended up feeling intuitively guided to do something else. And that contrast made it sloppier than I wanted to be. And then I had an earth-shattering revelation. There's no real advantage to doing it live, because I'm not looking at the chat window. I'm not answering your questions in the moment. So there's no real advantage other than that it was easier for me to produce. Well, I've gotten better at producing videos. This is a lead-in, but I'm so excited about this simple little thing. Past 2 weeks, I've posted full classes that I do earlier in the day. And here's what happens when I do it that way. I don't set much of an intention. I get on, this is how I like to practice. So I get on the mat and I start, and I'm following what my body and spirit are telling me I need. And that often takes me in directions that I couldn't anticipate. So if I give you an intro that says this class is going to be about exploring your edge and finding your right level, and then all of a sudden I'm doing 5 minutes in one pose because that's what I'm called to do, the intention's contradicted. Well, when I record the class ahead of time, I record the whole class. I do it perfectly intuitively, and at the end I go, welcome. Today we are going to explore a class where and then I just say what we just did. Then I cut that and I put it at the beginning, and it's a clear, simple introduction to what we actually just did. And I know exactly what we just did because I'm recording the intro at the end. It's 20 seconds of an intro, but it's such an elegant way to make it much more valuable for you. And I'm thrilled about that, because I think if you give it a chance, you'll be able to look at the beginning, know quite quickly whether or not you fit in. Hopefully I'm doing a decent job of articulating clearly what you're going to get. And as a result, I hope people can be that much more encouraged to be committed and continue to tune in every Monday. Monday afternoon, I'm trying to get it posted by 3 or 4. It takes longer than I thought to post the long things, but I'll get the groove down. I promise you, you want the yoga. You wake yourself up enough, you got to do the yoga, or you're not going to stay stable. You'll fry yourself. You got to do it. If you have another mechanism, great, but probably the chakra work isn't going to work well for you in the long run unless you somehow incorporate some kind of yogic meditation to keep this stuff stable and focused. That's house cleaning. That's house cleaning. Now I'm going to check for questions. All right. No added questions. So I want an example. This is not going to be perfect, all right? I just want to show you how it works. Someone share a problem that you or someone you love is going through. A big challenge that can be framed in 1 or 2 sentences. And really, anything that comes to mind, I'm probably gonna go with the first thing. Eddie, bless you. I'm so glad you're here. You are always so welcome. I'm about to do an example of a more in-depth healing session, and I'm going to train people here how to give these sessions. Okay, this is the operative word. I don't just want you to be able to do this on yourself. I want you to do this on other people. I'm going to train you to do it, and I'm going to tell you how much to charge people to do it, because you need to be blessed by it, and you can help people so much with a medium amount of knowledge. Okay, business. This, I would appreciate, you are so present and so loving. I would really appreciate your help even deeper. I intend to teach yoga in a way that all levels can participate. If I'm not doing a good job of that, I want your help. I want you to try. I am repeatedly within these classes telling people, this is an option. What we're about to do is an option. First, do this. If you feel called to, take it to this next level. Otherwise, stay here. So I'm trying to teach all the time that way, in a way that's suited for very advanced and very beginner in the same class. I've been working on this approach for so long, and I'm really thrilled that it's good enough that I've started to teach this way. It's just 2 recorded classes I got up there that I'm feeling very empowered, like I'm ready. So the principle is this: anybody should be able to take these classes. Doesn't matter how flexible you are. Being flexible has nothing to do with it. The only thing that matters is your edge. Everybody has an edge. A woman who has trouble, who's 90, who has trouble walking up the stairs has an edge. Walking up the stairs is her edge. That's a challenge. So awesome. My only goal here is to help you find your edge and to work at your edge. The only failure is to go past your edge. A super duper athlete who goes past their edge is failing just as much as an exhausted 90-year-old who walks up 2 flights of stairs instead of just 1. The goal is to identify your edge. That's it. Doesn't matter how flexible you are. So I am trying to teach in such a way that says, here is a position. You can be in this. If you can, try this. Go as far as you can, bending this way, and then stop when your body tells you to stop. That's your edge. You're doing great work. You just found your edge. So there's no need to copy everything with this approach. And hopefully I'm teaching in such a way that that will become increasingly clear. You don't have to be flexible to do these classes. You just have to be willing. And I'm undoubtedly not perfect at this. So I'm hoping that people will try, never do something that hurts, never do something that even feels significantly uncomfortable, and talk to me about how I can communicate more clearly in a way that keeps you in that. Jasmine, I'm so glad you're here. So look, one last chance. I'm asking somebody to be a guinea pig. You can make up a challenge. I just want somebody to give me a 1 or 2 sentence challenge in life, a significant life challenge. And I'm going to show you how you can run it through the approach that has been the main theme for this class today. 1 or 2 sentence challenge. And if I don't get something within the next minute, I'm going to make it up. Oh, look at this. When I do this, I can read without going like that. I'm going to use my hat from now on. See, I haven't been wanting to use my hat because I feel like it's unprofessional, but I like my hat. All right, people. Here's how this works. One of the more prominent sessions, Okay, good. I wanted you to volunteer. So, Brisness, tell me a 1 or 2 sentence challenge, and you need to be available to communicate a little. I'm not going to put you on the spot a ton. I can take it without that, but I at least need communicate a 1 or 2 sentence. There we go. Now, I did already say yes to Breezeness. So Breezeness, I will do your theme if you want to, but otherwise this would be great, the way Luca framed it. And if it happens to be a challenge that fits for both of you, that's even better. So I'm just waiting for a confirm from you, Breezeness. All right, I'm gonna go with Luca's then. That's how I'm gonna interpret this. But maybe I can do 2. So don't hesitate to tell me how you would frame it. Emotional attachment. Well, first of all, I go very intuitive. This is an art. All right, I'm going to do both of these, but I'm going to do businesses first. There we go. Okay. Confidence within me aging. This is awesome. So this is an art. I'm going to do both of these themes, all right? This is an art. And the goal is simple. I remember, I'm going to do this. I'm just all out there today. This is the kind of class we're doing. I remember in college, I had a massive crush on a girl and it didn't come through. And I was so depressed. It was like the end of the world. And I was depressed for a while. And it was ravaging. I couldn't focus on anything else. I couldn't concentrate. And eventually I wrote a song. It was one of the first songs I ever wrote. And the song was unbelievable medicine. All of the chaos, all of the depression changed. I was still sad, but it all focused. It's like I created a track for the energy I was going through. And there was even a beauty to it. There was a beauty in this depressing song. So I knew how to move through the depression because I wrote a healthy song that helped channel the energy. That's what this kind of healing is. What we're doing is we're trying to create an energetic song that acts as medicine for whatever's going wrong. This isn't objective entirely. We're using mathematical and musical insight, but it's not, there are perhaps several answers that would work. So you need to begin with that confidence that when you function to help someone else heal or coach them through a spiritual transformation using this system, You need to be confident in your intuition and trust that it's really valuable to work for a while with essentially your first instincts, because likely your first instincts are at least at the core of a healthy song that you can write for someone. So Business, look, thank you for being vulnerable in a way that we can do a lot with, all right? My intuition says immediately to work with your navel. Your navel is about who you are. You say confidence, empowerment, navel. So it's not vague. This is the kind of association you can learn to make quickly. And I'm saying we could interpret it differently. We could start somewhere else and it might work, but we're going to start here. Confidence is in your navel. We're going to start with your navel. Then we're going to say, okay, this is a dysfunctional issue, so we're going to go backwards. So we're going to go from the navel to the chin. And you can speak up whenever you want to, Business, or I'm just going to kind of go with this intuitively, creating a song that I believe can function as medicine for you. We go from the navel. We're saying you lack confidence because you're aging and you feel like you're suffering from the ravages of past alcohol use. The reason I don't say it works solar is because it's more about your core use of your power. The solar plexus could work. Solar plexus is how you pray and how you use your intentions, which could be a decent place to begin. But I'm thinking confidence itself is, solar plexus is will, navel is power. A lot of people call the solar plexus one chakra, right? They don't address the navel. But when you learn that there are two chakras here, the navel is the power, the solar plexus is the will. So the will is how you direct your power. The navel is the power itself. So I'm sticking with navel because that was my first intuition, and I want to be present with you because immediately I sense that a core part of the problem is ravages of past alcohol abuse could cause you to really doubt your own judgment. You've made this choice in the past to drink a lot in a way that damaged your body, and you probably don't trust yourself as a result. Well, trust is this next issue. This is the chin. So we're going to the chin, and I'm saying your chin chakra carries the resonance of your lack of trust in yourself. And undoubtedly, people who have drank a lot but gotten out of it carry this lack of trust. But here's the thing. You're telling me that past alcohol use. So that indicates to me that you're not still using alcohol in an abusive way. Is that true? And if you're open to confirm that, but I'm gonna act like it's true, and please type if it is. If you changed it, you're the one who changed it. So you don't get to still doubt yourself based in bad decisions if you've already changed those bad decisions. Look at this. This is a simple point, and you're saying, yes, it's true. You don't get to doubt yourself. You are the person who changed it. Get it? You're not the person who made those mistakes. You're the person who changed it. Now, something's preventing you from building on that change. You stopped it, but you didn't progress further. Now, let's look at this. We're going backwards still, and I'm suggesting we haven't really identified enough. So you go backwards from the chin to the root. The root is all about your needs getting met and your position in society. Here's my guess. And again, I want you to confirm with me, Business. But my guess is that other people knew you as someone who plausibly abused alcohol or used it too much. So you probably made some sloppy decisions, choices that you're embarrassed about, and you feel like that's who you are in your community. You feel that reinforced in your community. Moreover, often when people are in a position where they've made some terrible mistakes and they've changed it, it's like, imagine you were in hell and you got yourself into purgatory. If you remember being in hell, you're so damn glad not to be in purgatory anymore that you're like, I'm staying right here. You're in purgatory. Purgatory is not hell. Purgatory is a lot better than hell. So you don't want to move. It's a huge challenge for a lot of people who get out of a hellish pattern into a pattern that's more like purgatory. They don't know how to move any further, because when you start considering leaving purgatory, this fear comes back that you might slip into hell. Does this relate to your experience, Business? Like, does this speak to you? And I am kind of wanting you to answer. If you don't, it's okay. But my constant experience is that this is one of the places people get stuck the most. You've carved out a space for yourself in your community where you're not in the old bad pattern, but the pattern you're in isn't really healthy. Now, you've told us at the beginning that you're lacking confidence going forward and you're starting to feel aging. So that's even better. So I needed to know that. So it's not like you were the wild drunk at the party who made an embarrassment of yourself, which means you're in a better position to make a new life for yourself, because it's not like you did a stream of wreckage in your community, but it's also you experienced this, you hid it. So you know this hidden part of yourself. You've been fighting with a hidden part of yourself, and in a way that very lonely, very lonely. And I want us all to pray some love to her in this space. So think of what really happened. You conquered this. You changed it. But it's likely that you're still living with the struggle. You learned to pin it within yourself, but you're still expending a lot of energy on that struggle. But you won. And it looks to me like you haven't identified as the person who won. You haven't identified as the person who exerted the strength to change it. Now, our goal is to get you there, but we haven't found, you're going to have to let me know if we find enough energy to shift it. But otherwise, we're going to keep going in this cycle. Now, I'm saying you're going backwards from the root, we go into the lungs. The lung says, what do you love in life? Here's my theory. You have dreams that you're not pursuing. You have vision of deep and awesome love that you're not going after because it shakes up this purgatory hell dynamic. It's almost unconscious, but you have been afraid to take steps to make a better life because you're just glad that you got a handle on the hell and that you're trapped in this struggle on a level that's preventing you from embracing really awesome dreams. Exactly. Our goal here, we are creating an energetic song to help you deeply shift the energy. What I'm suggesting is that the struggle that you got, well, this is exactly what we're going for, all right? You need to be present with the reality. You're being honest. You're being honest about who you are with yourself and now with other people here. You need to register it on a level that gets you to stop identifying with your sense of doubt. Because what's happening is you're hitting this sense of aging, which is a different demon. In the past, you got this alcoholic pressure, coercion, seductress within yourself. You tackled that, you wrestled it into stillness, and you changed. But you haven't been able to confront whatever challenges come with getting older with enough confidence, because you still remember yourself as this person who might fall into a negative pattern. Well, now it's almost like you're exerting so much energy holding down the part of you that wanted to drink too much that you don't have enough energy to confront the challenge in front of your face. Now, if you've been meditating frequently and begun to change your lifestyle, my hypothesis is that you actually have to go deeper, and that you're scared to go deeper because it shakes up the stability you've created so far. So what you need is support. I'd be beyond honored if this was enough, but I would suggest that it's not. That what we can do together is put you in a position where you say, what do you need to feel centered? What is healthy you? What does it take? And you have to be a little disciplined about this. For me, I know I have to have 3 significant yoga practices a week. I need to eat within a certain range of health. I eat oats every morning. I know if I eat too much bread or fried stuff, I feel sick. I know if I eat too much dairy, I feel sick. So I have these levels, and I know when I exceed them. What is healthy you? Basics. Then once you get that established, you say, we're talking about planning. We're in the lungs. So we're talking about planning what a healthy life looks like for you. Then what you need is people. How many healthy connections do you have around you? You need people in your life around you who validate the healthy lifestyle that you've begun to create. So my suggestion is you need to go deeper, and you need yoga. Now we established exactly the boundaries here, and we're still working on the lungs. We're planning healthy you. All right. What we're going for right now, and you need to tell us if we get there. I want to know if you could feel excited. I want to know if you could feel excited on a level that contradicts your lack of confidence. Now, what most people feel is they sabotage their own excitement because they're afraid that their own excitement won't work, that it's a false hope. And they don't want to invest in it because they don't want to get let down. It's a very common thing. It's akin to saying, I don't want to leave purgatory because I don't want to end up in hell. And people are afraid that if they believe in heaven, they're going to just fall from grace and they'll lose all the confidence that they've built up, and it'll be hell. So I want to know from you, can you identify with that? Do you think it's possible that you're refusing to be excited about taking your lifestyle deeper into health because you're afraid you'll fail? Okay. So this is what I do with my clients. I take over in the moment when I know that, it's unrealistic to presume that you're going to be able to feel that yet. And I say, we need to make a first priority to you. We started with the navel. We went from the navel backwards in the cycle to the chin. Lack of trust in yourself because you made bad choices. I say, wait a second, you're the one who changed it, so we need to try to reprogram this. But you don't have enough strength to do it yet, so let's go to the root. You go to the root and you say your brother and mother, I believe it was, found out, and before then you hid it. So there's a sense of real isolation. And in that isolation, you had to doubt yourself because people didn't necessarily know who you were. And when they did find out, you were able to change it some, but you still don't have confidence from it, or you were able to change the pattern, it sounds like, but you still don't have confidence in yourself from it. So then we go from there. This is not exciting enough yet. We haven't generated a lot of energy. So we're going to move on, and we move to the lungs, which is one step further back. And I'm saying, as a practitioner, as someone who's giving you a healing session, this is where we're going to rest until next week. What you need is a plan. You need a disciplined plan to take yourself to the next level, and I want it to involve yoga. Because the reason you're not able to go as deep anymore is because you're not taking care of your body on a basic level. You just need to tend it on a basic level, just basic, in order to get meditation deeper. And my guess is that yoga hasn't been a realistic challenge because you are inclined to push too hard. This is almost always the problem for people, is that they push too hard and they suffer a little in a way that is not joyful and doesn't give them benefits, and then they give up. And it's actually smart to give up if you're pushing like that. Smart. Because you might hurt yourself if you keep pushing like that. I want to guide you in a way that changes that. I want you to try the yoga class out from yesterday. The standing poses, and communicate to me in the class, in the comments, communicate to me where you get stuck, where you feel challenged. If you feel overwhelmed in any way, stop and tell me what happened. That's what I'm asking from you. Pay me by commenting and supporting my ability to be a better teacher. I'm serious too, because I want to learn to teach people on the internet this way. It's one of my biggest goals in life. So you support me by being honest and vulnerable. Please trust me. I'm telling you that's true. You support me by being honest and vulnerable about what goes wrong so I can get better at guiding you through it. Exactly, business. And this is where I hesitate to be honest often, but I have a problem with the way most yoga is taught. Most yoga. Because essentially in almost every class I've taken, teachers will give you a challenge, will give you a pose and say, if you can't do this, here's an alternative. It's absurd. What I try to do is I try to go to a base level pose that almost everyone can do, unless you have a fundamental, like your leg's broken or something. Or, you're very vulnerable to pulling your hamstring, something extreme. If you go to the base level pose, I keep saying, stay there. You don't have to do this next pose. Now I'll offer a challenge, but you don't have to do it. And I try to say this a lot. And hopefully I say it enough that people learn that I'm saying it even if I don't reinforce it. The goal is to keep giving you something you can do and encouraging you to just stay there. It's great to stay in a pose for a minute that's solid and grounded and not twisting you too much. And if you're predisposed to think that you have to do everything there, I want to encourage you to recognize that I think you have not been set up for success. If you're trying to take a class that's constantly showing you challenges that are too much for you and you're constantly feeling like you're failing, that's a problem in the way the class is constructed. I want to show you where challenges are and yet reinforce to you, why take on that challenge if you're already at your edge and you're being blessed? Give this a shot. Try the class out. I promise you, after you do a class like this, you'll be able to meditate deeper and it'll help take you beyond the limits where you felt stuck. And I think we've made a ton of progress. I'm excited, even if you're not. So we're creating an energetic song that I believe I can help invite you into. And this is where I'd say, hey, this is a lot. This is your homework. Now you have something you can do, and we'll work on this again next week. And I mean it. Next week, I want you to come back and report, also with comments on the yoga class. All right? This is me. I've been afraid to take my classes into this depth, teaching in this way. And now I'm doing it, and I'm excited to call you into it and call you into deeper challenges as well. Now, Luca, so first of all, I want you to give me some feedback if you feel at peace with how far we've taken this. Absolutely. And if you don't mind saying, if you feel open to saying, when did you cry and what were you with? Because I want to leave you in a good space. I believe we've given you good homework. I honestly believe it's exactly what you need. But as it so happens, I would feel a little bit better if you just reinforce whether or not you need any more support in this moment. Because I want you to feel supported and safe. And it's a little awkward trying to do that over the computer from a distance. So just let us know in a comment if you feel up for it. If you're in a good space for us to move on. Bless you. I'm really thrilled. So this is it. That all we did was step through. She gave a challenge. I, as a practitioner, associated with a chakra, and then I started addressing the themes in reverse in the key ring because it's a negative, it's a dysfunctional challenge. So we're addressing it in reverse, and you address it in reverse until there's some kind of coherence that's vibrant that you can say, this is homework for a week. This is the pattern I've used for years, and it really works. You want a theme that makes sense to hold for a week. And once you have that theme, that you have something proactive you can do to address the challenge. Some challenges last for a long time. You don't need to expect that you're going to solve everything immediately. But if you have proactive steps you can take that you focus on for a week, and you then check in and you see what's changed, and then you move on to the next layer that gets uncovered, often you're decoding yourself. You're decoding exactly what you need to do to create a healthier life. And I have found that this system works amazingly well within this simple cycle of 12. I'm going to do one more, slightly more generic at the beginning of reading time, because this is kind of reading time. So the practice, I don't know exactly what you mean, but there is on the channel, Chakra Yoga is a playlist. And the basic Chakra Yoga is the standing flower. There is a written document under there that I encourage everyone to learn. And if you can stand, you can do some version of the standing flower. Now, I try to reinforce only step as wide, only move as deep, only bend as low as you feel comfortable with. I'm just going to say it again and again. So you're not going to look exactly like I do. That doesn't matter. You're just trying to find your edge within a rough version of the pose. The practice that I'm talking about now, the way I'm decoding you, is my book, which is this month, probably very soon. We're doing diagrams. I'm not allowed to edit the words anymore. We're printing out diagrams that go in the book. So the art is done, the cover's done, the cover's being completed. We're close, and the whole book explains how I'm doing what I'm doing much more in depth. So it's coming, but I'm jumping ahead because I'm so excited to share it. And I honestly believe I'm giving you the keys. I'm giving people the keys to take care of yourself quickly and deeply on levels that are just absolutely fascinatingly beautiful. So I'm going to do Luca's challenge a little bit more generically, and I'll do it simply, so we won't go as in-depth, and then I'll do readings on anyone who remains and would like them. Luca has framed a challenge in a more open way, so I'm not going to go back and forth with you, Luca, because I do want to leave space for readings. But I'm perfectly happy. I'm going to do more of these in-depth explorations in the future. And I'm even going to ask for volunteers to record some of them because I really want to teach you how to do this. As I mentioned earlier in this session, I have been personally afraid to share all this information because it's perfectly possible to use this information to decode and bring up problems that maybe you're not ready to handle. I'm scared. And I'm going to give you the tools to open yourself up, but then you'll freak out and run away and not get the support you need to keep going through whatever you've woken up. And I care. I want to be responsible with this guidance. And these are all the reasons why. Nonetheless, I'm about to publish the book, and the book gives such an in-depth overview of all these approaches that, anyone can take it and run with them. And you're likely to wake up a ton, and I want you to, because I want you to be the most amazing, vibrant person you can be. So Luca has asked us how to let go of emotional attachments to loved ones, money, importance in general. So that could go in several different ways, but I'm going to focus on emotional attachment. Emotional attachment immediately makes me think of the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra is all about one-on-one interactions, intimacy and lack of intimacy. Understand, if you face one other person and you're exchanging strong energy with them, it can be hostile, and that's still about the sacral chakra. Sacral chakra is all about how you engage another in this way. An emotional attachment indicates to me a way in which you allow yourself to hold a pattern in other people, one other person or other people in general, that isn't particularly healthy for you, but it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose that you might not be able to understand. The best way to let go of it is to go on a treasure hunt, to understand why you originally chose to hold that, and then address that part of yourself with respect. You want to respect the fact that you were essentially choosing the most functional way you knew how to deal with your life. Start with that kind of compassion, that you're not just a failure for holding on to some kind of attachment. You chose that attachment because it played a role in your life. And if you want to let go of that role, you're going to need to address the original issue more effectively. So we lay that down. We go from the sacral chakra backwards to the throat. When you go backwards to the throat, you say, okay, the throat's all about communication. Communication that it's not just one-on-one communication. It's communication that other people can hear. Like our YouTube channel is the consummate throat chakra experience because I am projecting out in the hope of creating intimacy and trust and friendship, but I'm projecting it. Anybody can hear this. This isn't private. That's what the throat chakra does. The throat chakra puts your feelings and thoughts and ideas into an artistic form that goes broadly and ideally connects to people who resonate with it the most. But a musician is never going to know all the people who like their music if they publish it on the web or sell a CD or something. And in the same way, when I do this, I might not ever deeply understand some of the people who listen. Thousands of people who watch some of my videos, I'm never even going to remember all their names. That's what the throat chakra does. Chances are, if you have an emotional attachment to anything, money or an intimacy style, a style of relating to others, you are not communicating your truth through your throat chakra. Somewhere you got afraid to communicate your truth, whoever you are. Now, Luca might have been sharing a challenge for other people. I'm not going to pin her. But think of this. Imagine a person who is dysfunctionally in negative patterns of sharing intimacy, attachment to other patterns of, someone who sleeps around more than they want to, someone who gives away too much money or, shops indiscriminately in a way that isn't good for them, or someone who who fights too much to get the most money they can out of everything they do, and fails to become friends with people who could be friends, or treats people poorly in effort to get as much money as possible. These are all examples of negative emotional attachments. We're going to the throat, and I'm saying the reason someone behaves that way is because somewhere along the lines they got blocked sharing their truth through their throat. Now, one of the classic ways, one of the first thing that comes to mind for me, is that someone who has a calling, a really profound calling, that for whatever reason they lack the confidence or the sense of trust in themselves to speak honestly. They're afraid they're going to get torn down. They're afraid they're going to get criticized. Another classic form that gets stuck in the throat is someone who has been violated and they're angry about it, but they're afraid that if they express that anger, they will get hurt worse. That can come in the form of a direct backlash, like you're in an abusive dynamic where somebody might hurt you if you get very angry in order to dominate you. That could also come in a form of like, you really want to be a kind, loving person, and the level of anger you have felt has annihilated your ability to believe in that. So this is inconclusive, and I don't want to get tangled there. So I'm going to move on to the next chakra backwards from the sacral, which is the crown. Now, my first instinct was about a sacred calling. And if you want to remember what that is, you go from the throat to the crown and you say, what is it? What's my divine job? One of the most beautiful roles of the throat is in a positive way. When a revelation has come into the crown, then you are called to communicate it. There's a revelation. It breaks open your sense of reality. You experience an epiphany of some sorts, and then you are called to share it. And when you share it, you undoubtedly can't give people exactly what you felt. You felt something in the crown. You're being called to share it in a way that comes through as art. So you have to work. You're translating the energy. My question would be, maybe to Luca, maybe to someone else who identifies this, has this happened to you? I would guess that it has, and that something stopped you from sharing your truth. I would guess that stopping had part to do with, doubting that, people would believe you. Maybe you were afraid people would think you were crazy. And also, if you wake up your truth through your throat, maybe you're going to have to identify that you're actually angry at a lot of people for trampling on you. And you haven't wanted to get angry. You haven't wanted to be the person who is as angry as you feel inside. So you've been repressing yourself. But the thing is, when you repress your anger in that way, you also shut down your beauty. They happen together. You can't just shut down your anger and still share the depths of your spiritual truth. You shut down your throat. That's the only power you have. You can open your throat or shut your throat. If your throat is both angry and divinely inspired, you have to share both of those things in order to keep your throat open. Does this relate? Does this relate? Honestly, Luca, if this is hitting home at all, I would appreciate your feedback, because somehow I feel like this does relate to you. And this is where I would put my feet down with someone. If in person, or if I'm doing a Zoom session with somebody and I got to this point, I'd be like, what is it? What was your epiphany? It happened. You buried it. You forgot it, or you repressed it. What is it? What was it? And I would be stubborn and say, I know it's there. I can feel it. I recognize it. And this is where we'd turn. This is where we go back to the throat and we'd say, the reason you're attached to the dynamics you're in is because you're scared to let go into this. I think you're scared to be carried away by the extraordinary beauty that has already touched you and called you to do some work in the world. I think that's what's happened. And I'm here to say, you can do this. You can do this. What is it? It's time to work on some art. What kind of artist are you? What kind of artist are you? I'm not going backwards. We're going forwards in this cycle now, because there is an epiphany that needs to be shared. And if you actually do the work to share that epiphany, your emotional attachment to people and money is gonna fade. It's gonna fade. That's what happened to me. This happened to me, and I started just, nothing mattered anymore. Nothing mattered. I gave up on all sorts of financial opportunities, big ones. I was well situated. And incidentally, Luke, I am looking for, if we're on to you in any way, let us know. I gave up on all sorts of financial opportunities. I stepped away from a lot of friendships. And I was able to identify that I was attached to them. I was clinging to them because I was scared. And I didn't trust that they would follow me, because in many cases they didn't. They didn't want me to be who I was called to be. And that was very painful. It was very painful for me to realize. I didn't want that to be true. And I didn't have to say F off to everybody, but I had to start communicating my truth. And once I started communicating my truth, people showed me whether they were interested in me being this person or not. And many people were not interested in me being who I was becoming. And that was very brutal and painful and sad. So that's yet another reason that people get stuck in their throat, not communicating their truth. And you end up getting attached to dysfunctional dynamics because you don't have anything else, because you shut the door on what divine spirit is calling you to be. Well, Goddess bless you. Goddess bless you. So here's the deal. The art of decoding yourself in this way is available to everybody. I'm telling you that these are the inner workings of how human consciousness already functions. It already functions in these cycles. So when you get in there and you start mucking with it, you have an enormous range of influence over what's real and what happens to you. I actually haven't seen it go wrong terribly often. What I see go wrong? People wake up, they don't have support, they don't have a framework, they don't know how to function, and they make bad decisions. People wake up, they access divine inspiration and extraordinary awakened energies, and that flushes their problems and traumas to the surface, and they don't get enough support, and they feel shamed and they feel crazy. Those are the problems I see, and they happen constantly. And that's why I pursued this work. First, to heal myself, and now hopefully to heal as many people, to support as many people in awakening into your absolute best as possible. These are the codes. These are the keys. And it'll make a lot more sense when the book comes out, which is soon. Meantime, I don't know if you noticed, but I've never gone this deep before working with healing people in public, and I'm going to from now on when I can. Probably not the very week, this week I could do it. Next week, if my wife's giving birth, I won't be able to. But, when I feel up to it, I'm going to go deeper. And I do feel willing and able to give quick versions for people as readings. And I'm going to try to give you a lot of information because you can go back and listen. But I also want to make sure I get to everybody who asked for it. And I have an appointment in 10 minutes. So I don't know how all of that's going to work, but we're going to see. I am about ready to do open deep readings quickly. and we'll start with L. Roberts. Please give me feedback at the end, particularly if it's off. Definitely if it's good as well. L. Roberts. You have an extraordinary heart energy. It's loving and strong. Your lungs are empty, shrouded. You are not planning in a way that's true to your heart. The daily commitments and love in your life are not true enough to your heart. It's easily the most important thing for you to address. In order to make this love real, I go in a positive cycle, heart to crown. The crown says, what is your divine relationship? This might be where you're stuck, because your divine relationship will give you a calling in the world. Once you weed through, like at any point, if you lost faith in the divine, by whatever name, address it, relate to this. Move from there to the throat. What are you called to do? What are you called to do in the world? What is your divine inspiration? If you were true to yourself about your divine inspiration, what would you be doing day to day? When you go from there to the throat, to the sacral, this is where I think we're going to identify what's going on. Your sacral is about your intimate relationships. Your intimate relationships, it looks to me, are not in tune with your heart. So for some reason, you're not in a position to share honestly and deeply as much as you feel. And you go from there to the nose. Oh, this is huge. And it's yourself. You're not taking enough care of yourself. You're not following the way in which your body teaches you what you need to do day to day. You're not standing when you need to stand. You're not going on walks when you need to walk. This is usually what's going on. Usually what's going on. And this all comes back to your heart. And the reason your daily commitments aren't in tune with your heart, the reason your intimate relationships are not true to your heart, is because you're not loving yourself enough. Now, this is the code of it. I'm not meaning to be vague. This is the code of the fact that you're not loving yourself enough. Day to day, the biggest problem you're having is you're not following your intuitive guidance about what you need to be doing. You need to get over whatever expectations you have about when you can take a break, what to eat, when to call a friend, when to breathe fresh air, and put those things first. And it will free you up in a way that allows the other connections to happen. Okay, MP. And we're doing readings. We're doing these fast, deep readings. So let me know if you want one. MP. All right. I love it. Okay. I can't give you all the mechanics of what I'm doing, but navel. Here's what I get. Your sense of identity, you're still a little bit, you've done all the right things for a while now, but you're stubborn because basically, realistically, you got your ass kicked by God, by goddess. The divine love kicked your butt, and you need to laugh about it. You need to accept it and laugh about it, but you're still being stubborn. You don't want to admit it. Yes. So when you take this to the vision, you go from navel. I see a beauty that you've already embraced, but your ego doesn't quite want to surrender to the truth. And if you do, you just, like, there's no shame in losing to divine love. It's beautiful. It's funny. It's gorgeous. And when you understand that as you, then you can open more clearly to, like, what is your vision of yourself in the world. You're still inhibiting it because you haven't embraced this. And then you go from there to your heart. And the love, it's you set it up. Your love wants to flow. Your love wants to flow, but if you get this into your ego, it'll work. And it hasn't gotten from your navel. It hasn't gotten out of your navel. You've embraced the truth of your power. You've made the right choices, but it hasn't moved from your navel into your third eye, into your heart. And that's why. And I think you could do it by laughing at yourself. I really do. You don't have much work. You don't have much work to do. And if you allow that laughter in a way that your sheesh and emojis indicate, I think you're going to be great. And that's a lot to work with. Janie or Jane? I'm doing Janie, but if you have the ability to tell me, please do. Janie. So first thing I get is that this can be a little scary for you, so I'm not going to take it too deep. But I am going to say your intimacy, your sacral chakra, is carrying that sense of, like, you want to be able to draw boundaries in a way that has been painful. And I think you need to be more protective like this in general. Like, I believe I'm picking up on a part of you that gets trampled too often. I would encourage you to respect your guardedness with intimacy. It looks to me like you have been hesitant, but you've been hard on yourself about it. Like, you almost would force yourself into situations in a way that I don't encourage you to. I encourage you to respect yourself for protecting intimate connection. And in that respect, which is proactive, empowering, I encourage you to go to your nose tip and really focus here. Really focus here. What do you need to be doing day to day, minute to minute? You need to be in a position where you can make more of these choices. Something's restricting you from making your own choices more freely. Ultimately, to take care of yourself in the ways you need to take care of yourself, I would prioritize this. And I think part of that is you are mentally pushing yourself to make decisions about how to be intimate, about not just romantically, but friendship, even where to go, what to do, what to buy. You're pushing yourself from your mind. And I want you to make decisions more from your intuition, guided by your nose tip. Your nose tip helps you make decisions day to day about what to do, what to prioritize, spiritual guidance. How do your senses, the vibrancy of what appeals to you, how can that teach you what's actually good for you? And I would encourage you to just take that from there into your intentions. But you're not even quite ready to keep it there because you haven't developed enough of a relation. So you need to open up your intentions, scale back whatever you hold as your intentions, and create space. It's time for you to create space. Don't immediately switch to what you know you'll do. Just stop telling yourself to do the wrong things. Respect yourself for having the boundaries that you want to have, because it looks to me like you've been disrespecting yourself and not holding yourself with enough compassion. Eddie. You got pain in your heart. You're strong in your heart, but it's like you're moving through life as if like you're functioning normally carrying 80 pounds on your back. Like, that's a good analogy. 80 pounds, like, that's a lot. Everything you do, your shower, you're bearing too much. And it's grief underneath there, man. You're bearing grief on your heart. And you're so strong that you've been able to develop something that looks normal to you and to people around you, but you got too much grief on your heart, and you got to deal with it before you deal with anything else. You go backwards from your heart to your third eye, and you say, it looks to me like you've got painful memories stuck in your imagination, and it's inhibiting your ability to make other decisions and to imagine anything new. because you got painful memories stuck there, and you need help with it. When you take that backwards from the third eye, you get to the navel, and it looks to me like your power, incredible self-doubt there. Like you're asking questions in regret in a way it's just undermining you a lot. That regret is causing you to doubt anything you do going forward. So you're really handicapping your ability to take steps forward. And when you look at how the energy flows from there, you go to the navel to the chin. We're still going backwards because we're dealing with this burden in the heart, this grief in the heart. You go to the chin and trust, and it's like you don't fully trust yourself. And that lack of trust in yourself is keeping you to very restricted patterns. You're stuck in a way that, it's, damn it, you deserve more. You deserve to feel a wonderful love in this life. And when you take that lack of trust and you go into the root, there's just a sense of like, where do you fit in? Like, you don't know how to invest because this dysfunctional burden in grief has caused you to not see into a new future that works, as you don't know how to know yourself in that future or trust yourself in that future. And so then it's like, well, what do you do in life that's going to matter? And you go from the root backwards yet again into the lungs. There's a joy here. What's going on? Huh. It's great. Heart. Lungs. Huh. There is something special happening. There's something special happening, Eddie. It transcends the pattern for me. It's so strong that I'm going to put you in your chin and I'm going to say, trust this. Just trust me. Something just happened that I'm like, I never felt that before. But there's something very beautiful waiting and wanting to happen for you. And when you put that in the chin, it's like go forward even though there's no rational reason. Trust even though you're blindfolded and you don't know where your steps will land. Please do that and stick with it. Come back next week and damn it, do the yoga. All of you do the yoga. If you have a better yoga teacher, fine, that's wonderful. But do it. Let this stuff take care of you, because I want you to be empowered to take care of yourself. And I really reinforce that for you, Eddie. That was a very vulnerable reading. I just articulated a lot of dysfunctional and painful things, and I believe they're true. And I really encourage you. There's a trust beyond understanding that is here for you. Keep going. It's not time for radical changes. Okay. Janie, Eddie, MP, bless you. Thank you for the feedback, MP. Layla. Oh, wow. Something is slamming down on you, trying to force you to do work, to bear a burden that's not right for you. Something is slamming down on you. It's like violent. Something is violently telling you what to do. I absolutely dysfunctional and unacceptable. So first I'm going to pray for everybody to support her in saying no to this, because I don't care what it is. Nothing has a right to do this to you. Then you go from the lungs backwards in the cycle. Whoa. Okay. So there's a nightmare energy. There's a nightmare energy that you're like, there is no way in hell you want to have to confront. And I don't blame you, because it looks very painful and very frightening and difficult. And you need to. And so I'm going to pray the support that she needs in confronting this, because there's something that's trapping you. You were just adamantly refusing. You're adamantly avoiding a nightmare, and it's putting you in a very vulnerable position in your daily life, because it's like you don't have the power to say no to other kinds of forces. But they're not really the problem. The problem is this nightmare. And I'm praying that you receive the support, the love through us, through the divine love that we can help you be with, to face it. And you move that energy into your solar plexus with just the will. Like, I pray that you have the will to face this, and that it happens in good time, and you have the strength and love to do it well. And you need to leave it right there. You need to leave it right there. And I pray that, and I ask other people to pray that strength for you. Not like giving your power away, just pray it. It takes a moment, and it works. If this is true, please confirm, because it feels really deep to me. And it looks to me like that's it. So I'd love to do a confirmation with you. I'd love to do a confirmation with you, Layla. If I've missed anyone, if you could please repeat yourself. And I'm going to tune in and see if there's anything left in the day. That really threw me, and I really feel for you. I had nightmares as a kid. They were built-in trauma. When you live through trauma or something very dysfunctional and it gets repressed in particular ways, it ends up in your dream space. The energy can't be created or destroyed, but when trauma is repressed, when tragedies are repressed, so it's either a trauma you remember or not, but repressing it, the simple act of pushing it away and keeping it out of your daily consciousness and never healing it in your dream space, it'll ruin your dreams. And when it's there, you might not remember your dreams, or you might just have dysfunctional dreams, but they're both an indication that you have something to deal with that's deeply repressed. Yeah. So that trauma is putting you in a position where day to day, you're not empowered enough. And so something else, but when you say I had some trauma recently, my guess is that trauma is what I'm seeing is this trying to force you to take on a burden. Something is trying to force you to take on a burden. Someone or something is trying to force you to take on a burden. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is something older and it's been repressed into your diamond eye, into your dream space. And I'm saying there's something older. Those fears are putting you in a position that caused the trauma. That it put you in a position where you couldn't avoid the trauma lately. But the trauma lately isn't the real problem. It's a distraction almost. It's something that you bumped into because you couldn't avoid it, because you're avoiding some older fears. Those older fears are something you need to face. And the best way to face it is to prepare a space in your solar plexus. You're praying. You are practicing. This is what spiritual practice is for. You practice to prepare yourself to face things when they happen. So you're practicing something healthy, and you're building up the strength to confront the worst when you're there. So fear of illness is repression. Every bit of illness that we have influence over is repression. Something gets repressed, and it gets repressed so long that it makes us sick. So you're fighting in dream space, because when something's in your dream space, it's not going to make you sick yet. If you can fight it in dream space, it's not physically going to damage you yet. But if you keep that pattern going for too long, you could get ill. You could get ill. Well, I'm tuning in. There's no further step that we can do right now. There's a lot to unravel there. I'm absolutely willing to address it next week again. But right now, what I'm saying is you need to, this is what spiritual practice is for. So I'm giving you what I believe is a healthy spiritual practice, which is at least 1 hour of chakra yoga a week and 2 other practices, at least of 20 minutes. With them, you pray to have the strength to face the nightmares that are haunting you. That generically, the strength and the support, the loving support to face them. And you do that 3 times a week. You do the practice, and at the end of the practice, you make that prayer. That's it. That's a lot. That will do a ton. You don't have to do it every minute, every day. But I do think you need to do that because the intensity that you're confronting, you got to match it. You got to match it. You got to match it. And I hope we can help you have the strength to do that. Lana, welcome. Hello to you. Whoa. I hope you can tell. It's a little sporadic, but I'm going to get better at this. This is how much deeper things can go when you start to use this counterclockwise and clockwise nature of the chakras. My book explains it all much more in depth, but I'm going to start doing readings this way, and they can quickly help a lot more than just doing a 1 chakra reading or something purely intuitive. I love you guys. Thank you for supporting me and moving through my fear of sharing openly and honestly. Creating this vulnerable approach to teaching and sharing that is true to me. I love it. I'm excited. I'm excited for a lot of reasons these days. The prayer I ask you to help hold for me is that we have a healthy, graceful birth. Last time my wife was in labor for 3 days. She was too calm. I think we both maybe feared how can you not fear what happens in a first birth? But she was so calm that it just didn't flow quickly at all. So we'd like a much faster, more graceful birth than that. Healthy, happy. Please surround us with that prayer. I'd be grateful. Bless you guys. Bless you, Layla, with this passing. You're not supposed to take on the burden, but unless you confront the older fear, you will bear it. And I'm happy to continue to support you next week. But for the upcoming week, I encourage you to do 3 practices followed by this prayer to build up your will. It's necessary. Love you guys. Love to your families. Love to your day. I think there's something else I must say. That's it. Much love be with you and your family.